Welcome viewers. Today we will be discussing on the topic vectors used in gene cloning. The things that we will be discussing is the specialized vectors that are used for overexpression of a protein inside different hosts. We will be also focusing on cloning vectors which are used to clone genes in hosts other than E. coli, namely gram-positive bacteria. We will also discuss about cloning of gene inside yeast cells and cloning of genes inside yeast cells and insect cell lines. So let's start with a expression vector. An expression vector is nothing but a cloning vector wherein there exists certain extra sequences, namely the promoter sequence to carry on the transcription of the gene. It also comprises of a ribosome binding site for initiation of translation to take place. It also comprises of transcription termination sequences and translation termination sequences. And rest of the sequences like the polylinker sites are also present just like cloning vehicles. It also has got origin of replication and selectable genetic markers like antibiotic resistance genes. These expression vectors are introduced inside the suitable hosts wherein the gene of interest which is cloned inside the expression vector is overexpressed only when the overexpression switch is switched on. So, you can see here that if we want to transcribe a gene, we need the RNA polymerase to recognize the promoter sequences. The promoter sequences comprises of Tata box and a -35 sequence in case of prokaryotes, which are recognized by RNA polymerase. Closer is the consensus of this promoter sequence to the Tata box and -35 sequence, stronger is the strength of the promoter. Next you can see that the promoter strength can be enhanced by increasing the consensus sequences of the -10 region and -35 region. The commonly used promoter elements are LAC promoter, TAC promoter and TRC promoters, wherein TAC promoters and TRC promoters are fusion between LAC promoter and TRP operon promoters. So, you can see here that the transcription has to terminate as well. So, we need to provide transcription termination signals. In most of the cloning vectors or expression vectors, we provide row independent transcription termination signal, which demands the existence of a stem loop structure followed by adenine residues in the DNA. It means that stem loop structure followed by poly-U stretch is a signal for the termination of transcription. Next, we want to make strong controllable promoters. The reason behind is sometimes we need to overexpress a protein inside a host cell which is toxic to the cell. If it is toxic to the cell, then it will kill the cell. That's why we need to have controllable promoters which are switched on only when their expression is necessary. So, you can see that the factors that affect the level of expression of a clone gene are: number one is the promoter strength. Promoter strength is indicating that if it is a strong promoter, then the number of transcripts synthesized per unit time will be very high. Secondly, the transcription termination signals. As I said, that row independent transcription termination signals are used. Then the plasmid copy number. If the copy number of the plasmid is high, then the expression of the protein will also be high. The plasmid stability. Plasmid stability means if it is a stable plasmid, then the protein which is produced will also be a stable one. Then we need to look into the host cell physiology that also decides the level of expression of a protein inside a host cell. Next point is translation initiation sequences, which are called ribosome binding sites or Shine-Dalgarno sequences should be present inside the cloning vehicle, which are being recognized by the translation machinery, or the ribosomes recognizes the SD sequence to initiate the process of translation. We need to go for the codon choice. That is very much important, as because codon bias indicates that if you are using a particular codon in a particular host, then corresponding tRNA bearing things should also be present inside the host cell. And next is mRNA structure and stability. That is very much important, as because if mRNA is stable, then there is no question of overproduction of a protein. And finally, we need to focus on the final step, that is the stability of the protein. So, you can see here that if you want to maximize the expression of the product, the gene product, as I said, can be toxic, and hence rapid selection is to be done. High level synthesis exerts a metabolic drain into the cell, and other gene expression gets lowered down. That's why to have an optimization in the level of expression, we are using the inducible promoters and not the constitutive promoters. The popularly used inducible promoters are the lambda promoter PL, T7 promoters, TRC promoters, TAC promoters, and BAT promoters. We will come to them one by one. As you can see, that LAC promoter comprises of elements cap site, promoter, operator, and LAC-Z. Here there exists three different situations wherein lactose is absent and glucose is present. Under such circumstances, there is no expression of transcription, as because lactose is inducer of the operon and it is absent. Second condition is when lactose is present but glucose is also present. It means the level of cyclic AMP is low. Under such circumstances, there is low expression of the LAC-Z gene because the positive regulation from cyclic AMP CRP is absent. And the third condition is wherein lactose is present and glucose is absent. It means cyclic AMP level is high. Herein there is maximum expression, means highest transcription rate occurs because of induction by lactose as well as positive regulation by cyclic AMP CRP complex. Similarly, if I look into the expression of genes utilizing T7 promoters, you will see that T7 promoters are recognized by T7 RNA polymerase, which is an RNA polymerase synthesized by bacteriophages T7. And we all know that the bacteriophage promoters are stronger promoters, and stronger promoter lead to overexpression of a gene. Next, you can see here the expression of the genes utilizing T7 promoters. Herein, the gene is cloned inside a PET vector. What is there? PET vector comprises of T7 RNA polymerase binding site called promoter site. And herein, T7 RNA polymerase is introduced inside the genome of the bacteria. Means the host cell that we are using is a recombinant host wherein the T7 RNA polymerase coding gene or gene 1 is expressed from LAC promoter. It means expression of T7 gene or T7 RNA polymerase is under the control of LAC promoter, which is induced only in presence of IPTG or lactose. So, when the cells are grown in presence of IPTG or lactose, then only T7 RNA polymerase is synthesized and then only it will bind to the T7 promoter, which will lead to the expression of my target gene. It means it is totally under the control of the user. And moreover, there exists T7 lysozyme to nullify the overexpression of the gene under absence of lactose. The second promoter that is used is P-BAT promoter. Herein you can see in the P-BAT operon, the ARA-C is a regulator which can act as a positive regulator as well as a negative regulator. In absence of arabinose, it forms a dimer binding to the O2 site and the I1 site. Occupying these two operator regions, it blocks the transcription of the genes under the promoter P-BAT. On the other hand, when arabinose is added, it forms a complex with arabinose and ARA-C, which leads to breakage of this dimer and it becomes linear. And this creates the expression of the gene. Herein also you can see that expression of the gene is regulated by the presence of arabinose. So, if you want to optimize the overexpression, then along with transcription, you will have to take care of the translation process as well. Means high level of transcription followed by high level of translation is needed to overexpress any protein. Now, the factors that affect the translation process are ribosome binding site or the Shine-Dalgarno sequence, and second one is the codon bias, and third one is the stability of transcript. First, we will talk about ribosome binding site. What happens with ribosome binding site? That this Shine-Dalgarno sequences forms hydrogen bonds with the 16S rRNA component of the ribosome, and it actually facilitates the translation initiation process. And another point to be noted down is that the spacing between the Shine-Dalgarno sequence and the initiation codon is also important. It should range of 5 base pairs to 10 base pairs, with 8 base pairs is called as the optimal one. If this distance is decreased less than 4 or if it is more than 14, then also the rate of translation falls down. So, you will have to take care that the Shine-Dalgarno sequence forms perfect hydrogen bonds with the 16S rRNA, and the distance between the Shine-Dalgarno sequence and the start codon is 8 nucleotides. Next, we are coming to codon bias. This is very important, as we all know that a particular amino acid is being coded by more than 1 codons, and each host has got biasness towards a particular codon. Why? Because it may be bearing a particular tRNA bearing anticodon, which is not present within the gene. Under such circumstances, we have to take care that the gene that we are trying to express in a host which is not its own, then we have to take care of its codon bias. How we can do it? That we can chemically synthesize new genes wherein we can replace the codons with the codons which can easily be recognized by the tRNAs present in the host cell. Or we may have to change the host, means we may change the expression of the protein in a new host where the corresponding tRNAs are present. And third option is use an engineered host cell. You can see the next important factor is looking into the stability of the RNA transcript. Most RNAs in prokaryotes are rapidly degraded by RNases. We have to increase the stability of mRNA, or the half-life of the mRNA has to be increased. How it can be done? Sequences at the 5' and 3' end of the mRNA actually influence the stability of the mRNA or protects it from degradation by RNases. Not much information is available about it. Work is still going on. Next is the factors that affect the stability of the protein. Number one is overall level of protease activity in the bacterial cell has to be minimized. Number two, the N-terminal amino acid affects the protein half-life. So, we have to check the sequence of amino acids in the N-terminal of a protein. And finally, the internal regions containing clusters of certain amino acids can increase proteolysis. So, we have to take care that such sequences should not be present within my protein sequence. So, you can see here importance of stability of a protein. Now, we are coming to another class of cloning vector called gateway cloning, which has really opened the doors and facilitated the concept of expressing any gene into any host. This method is very much popular because of certain good points present in this gateway cloning kits. Number one is that it facilitates directional cloning, which is very much important when we are interested in expressing a gene. Second, it maintains the reading frame. Third, no restriction enzymes are required, no ligation enzymes or ligase enzymes are required. It is done just taking help of the recombination events that are occurring inside the host cell. So, recombinase enzymes are carrying on the process of gateway cloning. And next important point is that 1 hour room temperature reaction gives a 99% efficiency in cloning. And here we don't need to go for resequencing, and it is compatible with automation, and herein it facilitates reversible reactions. So, all these features makes gateway cloning the method of choice for the recombinant DNA technologists. Now, you can see here it comprises of entry vector, destination vector, and it comprises of reactions called LR reaction and BP reaction, wherein the at sites which are present within the bacteriophage genomes as well as in the host genomes are being utilized for switching of gene from a vector to another vector and for expressing them according to our needs. Now, I will be discussing about cloning of gene in a gram-positive bacteria. Why it is so important? As because gram-positive bacteria ranges in their GC contents. There are certain gram-positive bacteria with low GC content called Bacillus subtilis, whereas high GC content gram-positive bacteria, namely Streptomyces, are there. There we have seen that the host may vary, and as because the hosts are different in their GC contents, the cloning vectors which are applicable in one host may not be suitable for cloning in the other hosts. That's why extensive study is being done in these cases. What are the advantages and disadvantages of cloning a gene inside a bacillus? You can see here that in bacillus, efficient transformation via natural competence is possible, as because we know that E. coli is not naturally competent, whereas bacillus is naturally competent. Second important advantage is Bacillus subtilis is genetically well characterized, and laboratory strains are easy to manipulate, and bacillus genome is fully sequenced, and there are available numerous plasmids which are capable of secreting proteins into the medium, which is very important, as because if the proteins are secreted into the medium, then its purification becomes easier. And there exists certain signal sequences which are well established. Protocols are also available for the purification of the proteins, and they can be grown very easily in an inexpensive manner. And we should have to focus on the disadvantages as well, that the industrial strains are not easy to transform, poor efficiency of transformation of ligation mixture, and poor secretion of most heterologous proteins, and some of them undergo degradation. And genetics and physiology of the fermentation is not well understood, as it is in case of E. coli. Now, one of the vectors that are most popularly used in bacillus is p-mutein. What it does? As we know that with the development of sequencing technology, there exists numerous genes whose functions are not known to us. So, how to know their functions? We can know their functions by inactivating those genes. And how we can inactivate them? By introduction of these type of p-mutein vectors inside the ORFs of a particular gene. Thereby we can establish the importance of the particular gene whose sequence is known but whose function is unknown to us. Now, I will be discussing about the expression of genes in yeast cells, mainly Saccharomyces cerevisiae, which is also known as Baker's cyst, and I will also discuss about the introduction of genes in insect cells, mainly baculoviruses. Let's start the story with yeast cells. We all know that overexpressing a gene inside a eukaryotic cell is very important. The reason behind is that post-translation modifications are existing inside the yeast cells, which is not available in the bacterial cells. So, eukaryotic genes cannot be expressed properly inside a bacterial cell. Next, the absence of pyrogenic toxins are one of the reasons of using yeasts as cloning vehicles. The ability to get very high yields of recombinant proteins from fungi. Then the ability to clone very large pieces of DNA, an essential requirement for many whole genome studies in special vectors like YACs or yeast artificial chromosomes. Next, the different kinds of vectors that have been developed in Saccharomyces cerevisiae, yeast episomal plasmids, second one is yeast replicating plasmids, third one yeast centromere plasmids, and yeast artificial chromosomes. Now we are coming to yeast episomal plasmids. Yeast episomal plasmids is combination of an E. coli cloning vector with naturally occurring yeast 2 micron plasmid. Its size is 6.3 kb and has a copy number of 50 to 100 per haploid cell and has got no known function. Next, we are coming to yeast replicating plasmids. They contain autonomously replicating sequences, and although plasmids containing ARFs transform yeast cells properly, but there exists a problem in their distribution during cell division. So next we are coming to yeast integrative plasmids. In order to gain stability, What they do? They integrate themselves inside the genome of yeast. Now we are coming to yeast centromere plasmids. That one of the problems with yeast replicating plasmids is its poor segregation during cell division. To avoid it, they have introduced centromere sequences within yeast replicative plasmids, and it facilitates its segregation during cell division, and hence they are called as mini chromosomes. And now we are coming to the final one called yeast artificial chromosomes or YACs. YACs was developed into yeast artificial vector by the addition of yeast telomere sequences within the yeast centromere plasmids. So YAC was the first vector which could be maintained as a linear molecule. Rest of the vectors about yeast are all circular. One advantage of YAC is that unlike other plasmid vectors, the stability increases with the increase in size of the insert. But there are no practical limitations in the size of YAC, and they are essential tools in any genome sequencing projects. So here you can see that how the YACs are being created. It comprises of the yeast telomeres, it comprises of ARS1, it comprises of centromere 4, and URA3 and TRP1 yeast markers are used. It also contains ampicillin resistance gene to select the recombinants, and origin of replication of PBR322 is also present inside it. Now we are coming to baculoviruses. As I said, that recombinant baculoviruses are widely used to express heterologous genes in cultured insect cells and insect larvae. For large scale applications, the baculovirus expression vector systems or BEVs is particularly advantageous. The baculovirus expression vector systems for safe, abundant and rapid production of recombinant proteins in insect cells was first pioneered in the laboratory of Dr. Max D. Summers. And why it became so important is that the cloning and expression of genes for study of protein structure, processing and function. It is also used for the production of biochemical reagents. The study and regulation of gene expression can be done using these vectors. The commercial exploration, development and production of vaccines and therapeutics and diagnostics are the important benefits from these vectors. It is also used for drug discovery research and the exploration and development of safer, more selective and environmentally compatible biopesticides consistent with the sustainable agriculture is also done. Now, the applications of BEV technology in medicine, the rapid development of an experimental vaccine to the deadly Hong Kong blood flu virus HSN1, the rapid development of SARS vaccine. So herein you can see that how the things are created, that we clone a gene of interest into a plasmid transfer vector. Then gene of interest is joined together to form a recombinant plasmid vector. Second step is co-transfect the recombinant vector and linearized baculovirus DNA into insect cells. And this linearized baculovirus DNA, which was initially not infectious, become infectious only when they become recombinant baculoviral DNA. And this is how the recombinant baculovirus is created. So advantages of BEVS technology, that it is a safe technology and herein high level expression is allowed, post-translation modification is possible and relevant cellular compartmentalization of proteins is also possible. Moreover, capacity of large cDNA inserts as because up to 15 kb can be cloned and simultaneous expression of multiple genes is also possible utilizing this technology. And ease to scale up and use of cell lines is ideal for suspension culture. So in today's lecture, we have highlighted on the importance of expression vectors and how the overexpression can be increased or the factors that enhance overexpression we have discussed. Then we have also focused on the cloning vehicles which are used to clone genes in gram-positive bacteria. We have also precisely gone through the cloning vehicles or the vectors that are used in yeast, and finally we have gone through the expression of a gene in an insect cell line utilizing baculoviruses. Thereby, we have learned how we have been able to generate vaccines which are of human use. Thank you.